In the isolated town of Gallows End, nestled in a cold, fog-draped valley, lay an ancient mansion no one dared visit, Ravenswood Manor. For generations, it had stood abandoned at the edge of a blackened forest, its windows staring down at the town like lifeless, empty eyes. Locals shivered at the mere mention of its name, passing tales of how, years ago, everyone who once lived in the manor had disappeared without a trace. Only their whispers lingered, echoing in the night, but one stormy evening, a man named James arrived in Gallows End. A historian, he had spent years unraveling secrets of old estates and haunted buildings across the country. Ravenswood Manor had captivated him. Its stories of hauntings and disappearances an irresistible mystery. He booked a small room at the town's inn and asked the innkeeper about the manor. The old man's face went pale as he shook his head. "Young man, that place is cursed. Dozens have gone in over the years, none have returned. Save one." And he came back mad, unable to speak, with eyes that seemed hollowed out by fear. The manor took something from him, something he could never get back. Ignoring the warning, James left the inn and made his way to the manor. Dark clouds loomed, and thunder rolled as he walked through the overgrown, twisted path that led to Ravenswood. A strange, unnatural chill filled the air, making each step feel heavier. As if the forest itself were warning him to turn back, finally, the manor rose before him, towering in foreboding. Its facade was shrouded in creeping ivy, the stone walls cracked and broken. The windows were dark, reflecting the brief flashes of lightning that illuminated the scene. As James stared up at the mansion, he felt a peculiar sensation, as though countless unseen eyes were watching him. For a moment, he hesitated, an instinct urging him to flee. But he reminded himself of the years he'd spent searching for a story like this, and he stepped forward. The massive, creaking doors gave way, and James found himself standing in a grand hall that seemed frozen in time. A thick layer of dust covered the floor, and cobwebs hung from the cracked chandeliers. The air was stale and heavy, tinged with a faint, metallic scent. Portraits lined the walls, each painted with exquisite detail yet clouded by age, depicting people with hollow eyes and unsettling smiles. As James wandered deeper, he heard faint whispers coming from the shadows. At first, they were soft, barely audible, but they grew louder, turning into desperate, pleading murmurs. He paused, straining to make sense of the words.
Help us. Find us. Release us.
But whenever he turned toward the voice, the hall was empty. A chill ran down his spine, yet his curiosity urged him forward. In one of the grand rooms, James discovered a journal lying open on a dusty table. It belonged to Lydia Ravenswood, the last known resident. Her entries started cheerfully enough, descriptions of elegant parties, family gatherings, laughter filling the halls. But as he turned the pages, her words became strange, frantic. "There are voices in the night," she wrote.
"They call to me, pleading, sobbing. I see shadows in the mirrors, faces I do not recognize. The walls are closing in, and the house feels alive."
The entries continued in a similar manner, detailing her descent into paranoia. She wrote about being unable to sleep, tormented by nightmares that felt real, by shadows that crept closer each night. James shivered, feeling her fear seep through the pages, as though her despair were trapped within the ink. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed through the room, snapping him out of his reading. He looked up, startled, his flashlight trembling in his hand. The room was empty, yet he felt an undeniable presence lurking just out of sight. He tried to dismiss it, chalking it up to his nerves, but he couldn't shake the feeling that he was not alone. As he made his way back to the hall, he noticed something strange. A new door stood ajar, one he hadn't noticed before. It led to the basement. A dark, unlit staircase descended into what felt like the depths of the earth. Compelled by a mix of dread and morbid fascination, James took a deep breath and began his descent. The stairs seemed endless, spiraling down as the air grew colder, thicker. The whispers grew louder, more desperate, echoing in the cramped space.
Help us.
Join us. Release us. At the bottom, he found himself in a large, cavernous room. Rows of stone cells lined the walls, and inside each cell stood a shadowy figure, their faces obscured, eyes dark and hollow. They reached out through the iron bars, their bony hands clutching at the air, as if desperate to escape. One of the figures spoke, its voice a hoarse whisper. Please. Free us. We are trapped. Bound to this cursed place. She will not let us go. James took a step back, horrified. Who won't let you go? He stammered, but before he could get an answer, a slow, rhythmic thudding filled the air. He turned to see a tall, ghostly figure in a tattered gown, her face shrouded in shadow, standing at the end of the room. The presence exuded malice, an aura of pure hatred that seemed to sap the warmth from the air. Lydia. One of the trapped souls murmured. She guards the manor. Binds us here in death, feeding off our fear, our suffering. You must escape. Before she traps you, too. Heart pounding, James turned and bolted for the stairs, but Lydia's ghostly form glided after him, her movements smooth and inhuman, her gown dragging against the floor without a sound. The air grew colder as her presence drew nearer, a suffocating weight pressing down on him. He reached the top of the stairs, gasping for breath, but the manor itself seemed to shift, twisting the halls into a maze, each doorway leading him back to the same spot. Shadows moved along the walls, faces forming and vanishing, their expressions twisted in agony, their eyes wide with terror. Desperate, James stumbled through the corridors, his flashlight flickering, casting long shadows that seemed to reach out for him. He ran to a window, but as he looked out, he saw only darkness, a vast, endless void. The manor had trapped him, separated him from the world outside. He collapsed to his knees, the realization sinking in. He was lost, just like the others, doomed to wander the halls. His spirit bound to the manor's twisted will. The shadows closed in, and Lydia's cold laughter echoed through the darkness, and in Gallows End, the villagers whispered of yet another who had vanished within Ravenswood's cursed walls, never to return, while the manor waited patiently for the next soul to claim.